There'll be people sitting there watching this right now and they will be able to name projects that just should have gone faster and have just been held up for years.
Mate, today we thought we'd have a chat about some of the government policies that are coming in, but more specifically the fast-track consenting side of things. So can you give us a bit of a download around what that particular bill is trying to achieve and sort of where it's at the moment?
Yeah. So it's really exciting. So it's the Fast Track Approvals Bill. Of course, it doesn't become legislation until it's passed in the House. It went through the first reading under urgency about a week or so ago. So you can always go and have a little look at there. For my sins, I did listen to most of the debate about it, so it was quite interesting. It's been put forward by Chris Bishop and by Shane Jones, so the two ministers really. The purpose of it is to consent big projects that reach a certain criteria so that they're not caught up for what is sometimes several years unnecessarily as they work their way through the system. Yeah,
cool. And that's obviously, I guess, a couple of background purposes there, right? Housing supplies will be obviously a big one. And then we were chatting before about kind of getting that certainty around the pipeline for projects so that I guess things don't fall into almost like a black hole for a while.
Yeah, I mean, there's some really great examples, and certainly, you know, we've got a strong interest, obviously, in big development and housing and what's happening there, and all of New Zealand should have an interest in that because it's just such a major issue for us. But equally, the types of projects that they're talking about is around productivity. So if you think aquaculture, I imagine that Minister Shane Jones has indicated mining projects and some of that getting back some of the exploration around gas and things. You can imagine some of it might be real infrastructure, bridges, you know, things like that might be going through different property. And, you know, so I think you will see a real mix of public, private and different consenting kind of, and what he wants, is really a pipeline of projects. And he's talking about sort of 30 that are ready, that are sitting there. They will go through an advisory panel. That takes about 6 months, and then the ministers themselves make the decision, and that's what's quite unusual.
So that's like the key difference then, as opposed to, I guess, things getting thrown through maybe the Environment Court and getting stuck there for ages. So it's sort of fast track direct to decision making.
And I mean, there's some controversy around it being the ministers, you know, but at the end of the day, they've been given a warrant and actually making some decisions I quite admire and respect. And there's some really good examples of how it did work. I mean, I know that when I was a minister, we put through a special piece of legislation to consent for the Anzac Memorial in Wellington. And that was because it was public land, private land, roading. It just had all of these components to it that would have taken years and years and years just to get to consenting. Yet it was a project that we just felt was of such national significance that it could warrant it. Now, that's a bit of an example of what this legislation could do at some level. Yeah,
it's interesting, right? And I guess we've had a similar piece of legislation in during COVID to allow some projects to get fast-tracked. And if I recall, the main purpose for refreshing it at the moment was that obviously we're no longer in COVID, so really trying to get that groundwork going forward. Is that correct?
Yeah, and there's just, gosh, there'll be people sitting there watching this right now and they will be able to name projects that just should have gone faster and have just been held up for years. And there's, you know, from the ridiculous to the extreme. And, you know, the one that always springs to my mind is king salmon, and it's taken them several years to get consenting because they needed to, you know, move some of their farming practice out into colder, deeper water because it was warming, right? And the fish weren't growing at the same, and it wasn't all working. Well, we're not short of sea around us. It doesn't seem like it's, you know, it doesn't seem that difficult in my mind, and yet just by the Environment Court and others, it just has taken years and years and years for something that really could have potentially shut down that company. When you just think about our trade and what we're doing, and, you know, the expectation of us exporting our goods.
Just disruptive for growth, right?
But I also get excited, Chris, because I just think that, you know, once they really get it moving, you know, I've been concerned like everyone that we could lose our tradespeople to Australia. You know, we've got too many stop and start projects. Housing hasn't been taking off like we need it to and want it to.
Especially these big scale projects, right? Like being able to just go, yep, cool, we're doing this. And we've got that genuine pipeline that's not disrupted is probably really important. Right?
These people need to pay their mortgages and live a life as well, right? And when we are stopping and starting like we do, and we haven't got that pipeline of big projects, I think we're at real risk of losing them.
Yeah, it's interesting, eh? And then if we sort of put the hat on of I guess a lot of our customers, which would be private companies with maybe some land that they want to do some development on, do you reckon that this bill will be their sort of saving grace to get them going, or?
Yeah, for some of them.
Yep.
So, and it's not quite as simple as that, but there's always concerns around infrastructure around it and the cost councils as well as central government. But we know a lot of developers that are willing to take a lot of that cost themselves, that they can just get their projects underway.
Yep.
So I imagine that the ministers and the advisory, expert advisory committee will be looking really closely at, additional costs that might go in. Are they really shovel ready? Is this consenting? And they will put an environmental bent over it. They should. We all love our country, and we don't want to see it decimated. But we also need a bit more common sense and a bit of speed. Yeah,
I think that's correct. And then final question, right? What's our rough timeline from here?
Yeah, look, they're talking about the bill actually it being in about June, the coming legislation.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So that's really quick, to be blunt. It is one that has gone to select committee, so it'll go through a process now, and people can put submissions into that. Then I think it's committee of the whole House when it goes back into Parliament to be debated again, where they might be describing some in more detail what some of those projects might be.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So something to watch, right? Exciting.
Yeah, I'm just super excited. I think that there's real potential for it. I like that people are actually going to, put themselves on the line a bit, make some decisions, and get it moving.
Yeah, sweet. Well, look, with that said, Paula, thanks for your time. Appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next time.
Cool.
Ciao.